to the best of my abilities. There goes my pen. Hey there, I'm Celine and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be kind of a Q&A. I think this one is going to be a fun one. I gathered a list of questions here of questions that guys might have but are too afraid to ask girls. So I am here to answer these questions. Now, some of these questions and my answers to them are going to be on my view and my worldview and just my mindset towards dating. If you are new to my channel, I'm a Christian, so I like to look at things through a biblical lens, and that's kind of how I base my opinions, and the way I think about things is through a biblical lens. So yeah, again, this is just going to be kind of my thoughts and opinions, but I am also going to be speaking for the majority of Christian girls in some of these answers. I have some different answers, but I will be also answering them generally speaking for the Christian girls. So go ahead and grab yourself a coffee. I have a coffee here. I also have a seltzer water here. I always have like 3 drinks lying around. Like it's kind of a problem, but I like to stay hydrated, just not with plain water. So yeah, anyhow, let's go ahead and get into these questions. So the first question is, what do girls typically look for in a godly man? And I have a few answers for this one, and I think a lot of girls will agree with these. The first one would be spiritual maturity. If a guy is very strong in his faith and very steadfast in his walk with the Lord, I think that is something that all Christian girls are really looking out for, because kind of in line with the second one, we're kind of looking out for a good leader and a guy who has good leadership skills, because if we are to be married as wives, we're going to be called to submit to our husbands, and we are going to have a lot easier of a time submitting to our husband if he is spiritually mature and is in line with the Lord and can lead us well. It's going to be a whole heck of a lot easier for us to submit to you guys as our husbands if you have those traits in place already. The next one I would say would be maturity. This one might be different for every girl, but pretty much I think every girl might agree with this. I don't know. I haven't come across a girl who doesn't look for this, and it would be maturity in general. It is something that is pretty, I think, along with leadership and maturity is something that is very attractive to girls, character-wise, because again, it's that leadership and that man of the household that we are looking out for, and as well as the fruits of the Spirit and kind of how he carries those out in his everyday life, and how he treats others. So how does he act around his friends, and how does he act around the girls' friends, and how does he act when it's just the two of them, and how he is around his family. I think seeing a guy in different applications is really important, just because, people have a tendency to kind of adapt to the environment and who they hang out with. So I think those few things are kind of some general things that girls tend to look out for in a godly man. The next one is, when a godly guy likes you, when is it okay to state his intentions? So I think with this one, intentions should be expressed when feelings and interest is verbally expressed. So this looks like, as the girl, a guy comes up to you and says, you know, I've gotten to know you as a friend, and I really enjoyed getting to talk to you and, you know, just be in fellowship around you. But in all honesty, I actually do have romantic interest in you, and I would like to pursue a romantic relationship with you. I think right then after is when the intentions should be implied and stated, because I think that's also something that girls are looking out for, and something that is very attractive to girls is when a guy is clear with his intentions. A lot of times girls will be hurt with guys who are just kind of wishy-washy and aren't clear with their intentions. So if you are clear with her, that is going to make things a lot easier on her and for you as well. So I think even before you go and tell a girl that you like her, you should kind of do a self-evaluation, and really throughout the whole process, being purposeful in prayer will really help you. But also doing like a self-evaluation and seeing like, okay, I like this girl, I have an interest in her, but what are my intentions here? Do I like her, and do I want to pursue her just for the now and for the butterflies in the stomach feeling type of thing? Or would I seriously be looking at marrying this girl? Because in all honesty, that's what dating is. It's I think dating should only be pursued when we are seriously ready to look at being married in the near future, because that's what dating is. It's getting to know another person on a deeper level to figure out if you are equally yoked and if you are the right person for each other to be married in the future. So I think being very clear and really understanding for yourself what your intentions are is going to be really important before you even state your intentions to a girl. The next one is, what are some red flags that would cause you not to date? I think kind of going back to the first question and my answers for those, if the guy is not spiritually mature, or if he acts rudely to others and he's kind of lackadaisical and not very, doesn't have good leadership skills, I think that would be a turnoff. But I know, at least for me and several of my friends, all of my friends who are still single, we are all waiting for marriage. And if a guy is not, if he doesn't have that same desire for himself, I think that's a red flag, because I have seen it again where a guy will not have that conviction and will just be like, okay, I will support your decision in that, but I don't desire that for myself. We can't make other people feel whatever convictions that we have ourselves. So we can't force that on other people, but we can be very clear on what our values and what our boundaries are. And so I think for me and several other Christian girls that I have talked to, a guy who doesn't have that same desire is kind of a red flag. I feel like red flag is a very strong thing, but it is. I don't want to feel like I would have to compromise because my boyfriend doesn't have that same desire for himself. I think that is very important for me personally, that whatever guy I end up, if I date, that I end up dating has that same conviction and desire for himself. So I think those are some red flags that might persuade a girl not to date a guy in particular. I think also girls, we tend to be very like, we look for our friends' input and our family's input. So I think if they're kind of like, hold up, but did you kind of see this, or did you take into consideration this character quality or lack thereof? I think that might also raise a red flag in a girl's mind. And this next question, as I was gathering this list, this one came up so much, as well as another one that I'm going to answer a little bit later. And I guess it's to be expected. But it's on boundaries. And I feel like I can make a whole video on this, because I hope I don't go into a whole like rant on this. But to try and give you a short answer, it's going to be different for different girls and what their convictions are. Some won't want to even kiss. Some might wait to have their first kiss on their wedding day, or they're just trying to abstain from that in general. So yeah, it's gonna look different for a lot of Christian girls, but the general thing that we keep in mind is how not how close we can get to the line without crossing it. It's how far away can we stay from that line. So again, that line is gonna look different for everybody. Next question I kind of saw reoccurring, and it's, would you homeschool your future kids? And I think this is kind of like becoming more of a question lately, just with all of the kind of like the resurgence, I feel like, of homeschooling. I feel like there's a big homeschool movement happening again. And for my answer, it would be yes. I would love to homeschool my kids. I think that there are so many more lessons that we can be teaching children if we keep them, if we keep the schooling at home, and if we're the ones who are, I guess, discipling our children. At the end of the day, if we send our kids to school, we're leaving the discipleship to other people who we don't know if they have our same values, right? And I'm not saying that sending your kids to school is like you're doing a horrible thing and you're doing a bad thing. Honestly, you know, I currently am pursuing a career in education, and so I myself will be a teacher. And if I don't have the opportunity, if my husband and I aren't in the financial position for me to come home and just be with our kids and be a homemaker, I will still be at my teaching job, but it will give me the flexibility to be around my own kids and to be able to disciple other kids in a way that I might see better fit. But in an ideal world, once I get married and have children, my desire would be to come home and homeschool them. And for a lot of my friends, they also have that same desire. And like I said before, there seems to be a resurgence in the homeschool community. A lot of people are kind of going back to that, so that's kind of cool to see, and I am excited to see what sort of resources pop up for that. So that should be interesting. But anyway, for my answer, yes. And I think for a lot of girls recently, it has been a conviction of theirs, and they also have that same desire. Next, when does leading become too much? For me, I interpret this as like, you know, at what point does the husband's or the guy's leadership become too controlling? And I think that comes when overall we as women are going to be called to submit to our husbands, but I think that it's also important to have a man leading you who is open to listen to your opinions and really take value in them and listen to your opinion before kind of making that decision, and before just being like, oh, well, I'm the man of the house, so I'm just gonna go ahead with what I think is right, and you don't have any say in the matter. I think that's when it becomes too much. And so I think for me, some other qualities that are really important is a man who is gentle, and a guy who is very is a good listener and is very understanding, because I think that while, yes, a lot of the times and many times we are going to be submitting to the decision that our husband makes, it'll be good to kind of to have a man who will listen to our opinion and take that into account as the man of the house makes the decision. So this is a tricky one to answer, because, and I wonder what sort of comments I might get on this one, but honestly, that is my opinion and that is what I believe. Wives are to submit to their husband ultimately. We're not to be trampled on. You know, I think oftentimes Christian women can be seen as like, oh, well, you're just becoming a doormat, basically. No, and I think that's why it's so important to find a man that you really align with value-wise and belief-wise, and a man who is gentle and understanding and is a good listener. So that kind of sums that one up. I feel like that's kind of a tricky one. Some people might disagree with me on that one, but that is my opinion on that. And this next one, I feel like we're kind of past all the like more weighty questions, if you get what I mean. These are kind of, some of these are more like silly and like miscellaneous things, but they're questions that I saw reoccurring, and so I thought I would answer them. So this one is, would girls prefer for a guy to be straightforward or play hard to get? Honestly, there might be a girl out there who likes a guy that plays hard to get. At least for me, and for all of my friends that I have made over the years, we all would much prefer for a guy to be just straightforward. Myself and a lot of people that I know have been hurt by guys who have played hard to get and have been very mysterious and not clear with their intentions from the get-go. So definitely, I think being straightforward and honest and open is just common sense and like general rule of thumb. But there could be a girl out there that likes that, but I'm gonna say for the majority of Christian girls, we would like for the guys to be clear and straightforward in their pursuit of us. So yeah, that's the answer on that one. The next one is, what is the first thing a girl notices about a guy? This is gonna depend, but I think this is when more of the physical attraction comes into play, when a girl first meets a guy. Obviously you're talking to the person face to face, and their physical being is what is their first impression of you. So a lot of times, and this is even my answer personally, would be eyes. You know, it's said that the eyes are the window to the soul and whatever. Oh my goodness. And it does. A lot of girls say that eyes are like the first thing they notice. I feel like that's because when you are talking to someone, you're making eye contact, right? And I feel like most people can generally tell a sort of warm nature about the person and genuine and kind nature about a person when they are first talking to them. So I think eyes are, I guess that saying is true, a window to the soul. It's just kind of like a look into you know, just kind of the kind of person that they might be. So I think eyes are a big thing, and I think smile too is another thing that girls tend to notice a lot. And then lastly, I think this one is kind of a big one, at least for me. I think that how a guy carries himself is very important. And a lot of girls tend to like a guy who is put together, not too like, a guy who takes care of himself is, properly manicured, and he's just presentable, right? And he cares about his outward appearance, but not to the point where it's like, I don't know, like self-absorbed, not to that point, but just someone who takes care of themselves. And I think based on a first impression, you can definitely tell that. One more thing that I forgot to go with that, and this has been true for every girl that I have ever talked to, Christian or not, it is a common thing that I have come across, and even for myself, if a guy has this kind of character quality, I'll call it, it really leaves an impression with the girl, I will say. And that is if a guy is chivalrous and if he is a gentleman. I think that really sticks out to a girl, especially because nowadays I feel like guys have kind of lost that, like in general. They, with the whole feminist movement, the girls are like, oh, I don't need a guy to open the door for me, or, anything like that. So I think some guys have kind of like toned their gentlemanness down. And that really is a shame. So whenever a girl comes across a guy who still has very much of that gentleman quality to him, that really sticks out and leaves an impression with a girl. So kind of nurturing that character quality, I think, is important. Not only to, attract a girl, but in general, just to learn how to treat other people around you with more respect. And yeah, that is a big one. I don't know how I almost skipped over that one and forgot it, but yeah, chivalrousness, is that even a word? I don't know, but you get the point. That is a big one, I feel like. And next, how do girls show they're interested? This will depend on the girl and her personality type. I am the type that I think I don't show any symptoms of being interested, but in reality, everybody around me can tell. So I don't know exactly what that might look like for me. But I think in general, if a girl is actively making an effort to be around you, that's kind of a sign that she's interested. I think it could be different for different girls, but a lot of times if we are making an effort to be around somebody, we want to be around them for some particular reason. Either we just like to be around that person and they're a good friend of ours and we care for that person in our lives, but specifically when it's around a guy, if you notice a girl is really kind of seems to be present around you a lot, and she's not necessarily like forced to, like if you are in the same class together, like you are obviously kind of forced to be together in that room at the same time, but I'm talking about like outside situations. So like if you go to lunch and she kind of makes an effort to be around you, that's kind of a big sign. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that I have displayed in the past, and I just don't realize it in the moment. But for me, honestly, I don't know how I show that I'm interested, because like I said, I'm really shy, and I will do anything to not make it obvious that I like somebody, because I don't want to come off like, okay, she obviously likes me. Like, I don't, that's just not something that I ever want to give off. So yeah, if I'm more shy around you, that's kind of like a thing. And other people around, if they know me, they'll pick up on it. So yeah, it really depends on the girl. But yeah, like the one that I mentioned, that's a pretty general one. If she's a shy girl, if she is a more outgoing girl, a general one is the girl, if she's interested in you, she's gonna want to make opportunities to be around you. So that is that one. And also, to kind of going back to that point, I think a lot of times girls will kind of like skirt around it, because girls want to be pursued, right? And biblically, we, the men are supposed to pursue. They are the pursuers. Not that a girl can't ever be the pursuer. I don't think so, though. My personal opinion, I have tried to be a pursuer, and it doesn't work. And it just, at times I feel like, and I've heard that for guys, if a girl seems too interested, that is kind of like a turn off if they're like pursuing. It depends on the guy. But yeah, if you're a guy watching this, definitely let me know in the comments, say if that's true or not. Again, that's going to depend on the person. But yeah, I think that the guy should be the pursuer, and so a lot of times that is why girls will be less direct in showing their interest oftentimes, because they're waiting to be pursued. They might show you some signs that they're interested, but they won't flat out tell you a lot of the times, because they're waiting for that pursuit. So yeah, that's kind of the last point I wanted to make on that one. Okay, these last two are kind of silly to me, but I'll answer them anyways. I find these to be like less, like very much not serious, but I'm gonna answer them like I said. First one, does height matter? I feel like that's the number one question, Christian or not, is does height really matter to a girl? And I'm sorry to tell you, but this is again going to depend on the girl. I know that for taller girls, height absolutely matters to them, because they would like to have a man that is taller than them. But for me, I am just under 5'2", like 5'1.5", so height really does not matter to me, because, and maybe that's because I'm shorter than a lot of the population. I feel like I'm on the shorter side, so a lot of the times, well, all the time, a guy that I've been interested has been taller than me. So I guess let's speak if a guy was shorter than me. Okay, I can see how that might be something that does matter. But again, I think that is kind of specific to me, because I am on the shorter side, so like I consider myself like a little human. And so if a guy is shorter than me, a lot of the times girls are looking for a very masculine man. And not that if you're shorter than like 5 feet, you're not masculine. That's not what I'm saying. But a tall, athletic, masculine man. That's a lot of the times what girls are looking for. So I guess it depends on how much it matters to each girl. For me, it doesn't matter all that much, because like I said, I am a relatively small human, and a lot of guys, like 97% of guys, are taller than me, so it doesn't matter that much to me. But I guess I always say like height doesn't matter to me, but I guess it does matter a little bit to me. This next one I saw like reoccurring almost as much as the question of does height matter, and it's does muscle mass matter? This one I feel like is so silly. For me, no. Like I don't care. For some girl out there, it might matter. For me personally, I feel like if somebody has a lot of muscle mass, yeah, just never been into like the bodybuilder type. But again, also very dependent on the girl and how much that kind of factor, how much that weighs in her mind. So yeah, I feel like those last two were kind of like silly and we're leaving off on like a funny note. But yeah, I mean, all of these I tried to give like some general answers, but I mean, it's gonna depend on the girl. And honestly, I watched one video and the girl had said like we shouldn't be afraid to ask these questions, and so if you have a question, ask the guy that you're interested in, or ask the girl that you're interested in, because that's how you get to know somebody. You don't learn anything if you don't ask the person. So yeah, if you want to know something, ask them. I'm just here to give you my answer and the kind of general answer that I have heard from fellow Christian girls. So yeah, with that, this video comes to an end. If you would like me to do a more in-depth video on any of these questions, like a video on like boundaries, I could definitely do a whole video on that, and just other things like that, and like spiritual maturity. Just let me know in the comments, and if there are any other questions, you guys that are watching, if there are any other questions that you have, definitely put them in the comments and I will answer them to the best of my abilities. There goes my pen. But yeah, anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this video and had, you know, a good like laugh at one point. But yeah, ultimately we have to bring our love life under Christ's handling and really submit that to him. So I think above all else, being purposeful in prayer and making sure that Christ is your foundation and your center, that he will really guide you in this whole journey of dating and relationships. It can be tricky, but just pray about it, and if you are meant to be married, God will bring that person to you. But you do have to put yourself in the situations to meet people. Yeah. So, you know, God's not going to bring you, your husband, to your doorstep. That would be nice. I will say that would be nice. But that's not how things work. So yeah. Anyhow, just trust God, love God, center yourself on God, and he will help you get through this and all else. So yeah. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you next week. Bye for now.